I didn't catch him cheating. I caught him replacing me. She corrected me at my own family dinner. He stayed silent. That's when I knew this wasn't an affair. It was removal. I realized I was already gone at a family dinner. Not in bed, not through messages. At the table, where everyone was smiling. My mother was talking about work. Someone laughed. He sat across from me, calm, composed, correct. And then she, my mother's friend, corrected me. He doesn't eat it like that. Not sharply, not loudly, like someone who knows. I looked at him. He kept cutting the meat, even, methodical. He didn't look surprised. He didn't disagree. He didn't look at me. The plates were perfectly aligned. The wine had been opened in advance. The lighting was exactly how he liked it. I was sitting in my own home, feeling like a guest. Not betrayed, replaced. She knew his habits. She knew his rhythm. She knew him better than I did in that moment. And the worst part, no one at the table noticed anything strange, except me. I had always been told I was too much, too emotional, too loud, too intense. I filled rooms without trying. I spoke with my hands. I laughed before finishing sentences. I lived like silence was something to fight. He watched me like a system watches chaos. Patient, calm, waiting for correction. He never said change. He said, "This works better." He never said stop. He said, "You'll thank me later." With him, order felt like safety. At first, he chose restaurants, schedules, timelines. He framed it as care. "You're bad with structure. I'll handle it. Relax." So I did. I let him decide, then confirm, then correct. I started asking before speaking, checking my tone, editing myself mid-sentence. Not because I was weak, because the system rewarded silence. He called it balance. He called it maturity. I didn't notice when my voice became optional, until someone else started using it. The shift was quiet. So quiet I didn't register it as danger. At first, we decided things together. Then he prepared options. Then he chose the best one. Then he stopped asking. He remembered dates, passwords, deadlines. I let him. He liked efficiency. He liked predictability. He liked knowing outcomes in advance. When I reacted emotionally, he didn't argue. He waited. Silence was his favorite tool. Not punishment, calibration. If I pushed too hard, the room cooled. If I spoke too long, he checked his watch. If I cried, he stayed still until I apologized for crying. He never said I was dramatic. He let me say it first. I began rehearsing conversations before having them, editing myself in my head, cutting anything that might sound excessive. I stopped bringing problems to him, then ideas, then questions. Balance became dependence. Dependence became routine. And routine did what shouting never could. It made my absence feel normal. The dinner didn't explode. That's what made it dangerous. She didn't flirt. She didn't cross lines. She didn't even look at him too much. She corrected details. How he likes his food. When he prefers silence. What order things should happen in. Small things. Private things. Each time, he let it pass. No surprise. No denial. No glance in my direction. That was the fracture. I watched him allow her knowledge. Watched him accept her accuracy. Watched the system recognize a compatible input. I didn't accuse. I didn't interrupt. I listened. My body reacted before my mind caught up. Heat in my face. Pressure in my chest. A scream stuck behind my teeth. But I didn't scream. I analyzed. She wasn't the problem. She was the result. He hadn't betrayed me suddenly. He had replaced me gradually. The realization wasn't loud. It was clean. Precise. And once you see the structure, you stop asking why it hurts. You start asking where to cut. I didn't confront him that night. I didn't cry in the bathroom. I didn't ask for explanations. That would have been emotional. And emotions were the one thing he discounted. I waited. I watched how he moved through the house, how confident he was in routine, how certain he was that silence meant consent. He believed stability protected him, that predictability was armor. So I started learning his language, not feelings, systems. I checked calendars, shared folders, access permissions. I noticed overlaps, meetings that didn't require him, decisions that bypassed protocol, nothing illegal, just incorrect. He trusted order more than people. So I touched the order. I stopped reacting. I started collecting dates, names, connections. He mistook my calm for surrender. He relaxed. That was the moment I knew. He thought the danger had passed. He didn't realize I had finally stopped trying to be heard. I was preparing to be precise. The second dinner was planned by him. Family again, order again, safety. He liked repeating successful patterns. The table was set the same way, same plates, same wine, same lighting. She was there again, quiet, correct. I waited until everyone was seated, until he relaxed into his role. Then I asked a simple question, not loud, not emotional. Who approved her access? Silence. He blinked once, not panic, calculation. I didn't accuse, I listed dates, shared folders, calendar overlaps, decisions made outside protocol. I didn't look at him, I looked at the table. I just want to understand how this passed review. He tried to smile, tried to frame it as misunderstanding. I kept going. Each fact landed clean. No adjectives, no anger. The room shifted, not toward me, away from him. She didn't speak. He realized too late what I'd done. I hadn't exposed an affair. I had exposed unreliability. And in his world, that was fatal. The reaction didn't come immediately. That was expected. People like him don't collapse loudly. They recalculate. Someone asked for clarification. Someone else checked their phone. A fork stopped midair. He tried to regain structure. Suggested we talk later. Privately. No one agreed. Questions followed. Not emotional ones. Operational ones. Why was access granted without approval? Why dates didn't align? Why procedures were skipped? He answered calmly. Too calmly. The more he explained, the worse it sounded. Not criminal, just careless. Carelessness is unforgivable to people who value order. She kept her eyes on her plate, didn't defend him, didn't deny anything. That mattered. By the end of dinner, nothing was resolved. But something was broken. Not our relationship, his credibility. When we stood up, conversations shifted away from him. Plans changed tone. Trust recalibrated. He walked me to the door like nothing had happened, but his hand hesitated on the handle. For the first time, the system wasn't sure what came next, and systems hate uncertainty. After that dinner, nothing dramatic happened, which was the point. No messages, no confrontations, no apologies, just distance. Meetings stopped including him. Emails came later. Decisions were made without his input. He noticed patterns before people. That was his strength. He asked if something was wrong. I said I hadn't seen anything unusual, which was true. She disappeared quietly. No invitations, no calls, no explanations. Not punished. Removed. At home, the system kept running. Schedules, silence, routine. But now it worked against him. He started explaining things I hadn't questioned, justifying decisions no one challenged. I listened, nodded, said very little. He tried to reassert order, rebuild predictability. But trust doesn't return the way silence does. It doesn't slide back into place. It requires acknowledgement. And acknowledgement was the one thing he couldn't afford. I wasn't angry. I wasn't emotional. I had become unreadable. And for someone who controlled outcomes, that was the first real loss. The silence didn't scare me anymore. It clarified things. I stopped adjusting my tone, stopped timing my words, stopped asking if now was a good moment. I spoke when I had something to say, and I finished my sentences. He noticed the change immediately. Systems always do. He asked if I was upset. I said no, because I wasn't. I started taking up space again, leaving lights on, changing plans without explanation, making decisions that didn't require his approval. Not to provoke him, to exist. He tried to restore balance, suggested routines, offered structure. I declined. I wasn't rebelling. I was opting out. People around us adjusted quickly. They always do when someone stops shrinking. He became careful around me, measured, uncertain. For the first time, he couldn't predict my reactions, couldn't model outcomes. I wasn't chaotic. I was free of his framework. And without a framework, his calm stopped looking like strength. It looked like hesitation. He thought he could replace me quietly. That was the mistake. He believed removal was enough, that if I stopped reacting, I would disappear. But silence isn't absence, it's space. And space belongs to whoever fills it. I didn't expose him emotionally. I didn't shame him. I didn't ask for justice. I let his own rules measure him. Order turned against him. Routine stopped protecting him. Predictability revealed its limits. People didn't turn on him. They simply stopped leaning toward him, which was worse. I didn't need to explain myself. The system understood. I returned to my full volume, my full pace, my full presence. Not loudly, not aggressively, decisively. He still sits the same way, speaks the same way, cuts his food the same way. But now, when I speak, the room adjusts to me. He wanted quiet substitution, efficiency, no disruption. I made sure that wasn't possible. I didn't take revenge. I reclaimed authorship, and I was never replaceable.